I'm not quite sure how to navigate this well, so I'm gonna do the best that I can. Kind of difficult to explain, but let me do the best that I can. I'm gonna share this. Okay, here we go. Let's take this guy. Let's move this. This is not gonna be easy. I'm just gonna show this to you. And then I'll probably take it off because it's not gonna work. Because you know how slow this is and it's super annoying. I'm just gonna do this and then I can show you later. I can show you whatever you want to see, but there's certain things that I can't show you in this, okay? We have the Teams channel. We got it. There's 3,000, what was it? 3,655 messages in a thread. Thank you. The footage that we saw, that said they deleted the Teams channel, we had every reason to believe that it was gone. We looked in several places, and then we found it. The very first message in this Teams channel was started on December 30th of 2020. And the very last message was April 19th of 2022. Okay, this is a 2-year-long group text of elected officials and city employees. So we all know what quorum is, right? Quorum is where you cannot have a majority conversation, particularly with elected officials, because we are responsible to have all of our discussions in front of the public with 24 hours notice. Okay? Let me say this again. We had from December 30th of 2020 to April 19th of 2022, a back Teams channel, shadow government, running our city with a quorum of elected officials. When we looked at the thread, we found that there was over 3,600 messages in the thread as a whole. Now that's every group, every Teams channel. So this is going to get a little technical. I'm going to make it as simple as I can. Okay. We knew that that wasn't all quorum. So we had to filter out the stuff that wasn't quorum, but the stuff that included all of the elected officials in a discussion were 2,138 messages in exchange over the course of 2 years. Okay. When you look at open meeting law, it's pretty clear. It's been pretty clear since the Attorney General cited the statements on what is the definition of quorum in 2017, that it's any time that you have 3 or more elected officials in a room talking city business, the citizens have a right to know. Anyway. Now, don't get me wrong. Travis and me and Ryan can sit here and talk about our favorite brownie recipe, but what we can't do is discuss how we're going to vote on something, what we should put on an agenda, or how we're going to vote on an agenda item, or vote. Okay, we can't do that, right? So when you look at those 2,138 messages, a lot of them are really benign. It's the thank you, it's the yes, happy birthday, sorry about your grandma, you know, kind of things like that. There's a lot of stuff in there. But there's also, and then also an open meeting law, it said that if you're like, you know, 7 o'clock doesn't work for me, we're gonna do 6 o'clock, you know, are you okay on the 21st? No, I gotta meet on the 20th. Scheduling's kind of a loose thing. Like, that's not really a violation, but it's how else are you gonna schedule a bunch of people that are super busy? So we haven't had time to just completely vet this. My numbers aren't this is like a smattering, okay? But from what I can tell, what did she say? Roughly 10% of these are scheduling. So like 200 or so of these are scheduling. Okay, so you're still down to like 1,800 messages or whatever. About another 10% of them is about meeting packets, what's in an agenda, how are you gonna, what did we forget in agenda, what should we put in an agenda, those types of items. Another 10% of it is discussing HR issues. Now, hear me. Elected officials gotta run a city and you gotta figure out this stuff. And you gotta have these discussions, which is why I frankly, I don't wanna show you the thread because there's a lot of HR stuff in there, which I don't think is prudent, right? Prudent. And I don't want to accidentally show you something and then people go back and watch the recording and look and see what it said. So that's my concern about showing this right now on the screen like this. There's actually 50 to 100 messages discussing quorum in this team thread. They're discussing what quorum is while violating quorum. They're actually also talking about transparency and how we need to do things right, and how we need to go by the book, and we got to follow the rules. While they're not following the rules. There may be more than one occasion, but there's actually 2 occasions where they formally vote. Like they vote yay or nay. 3 yays. Okay. There may be more, I don't know. Like I said, I only have so many hours to do. And so, nobody's asked me who started the news channel. The city administrator started this news channel. The city administrator invited everybody into the news channel. The elected officials all accepted being in the news channel.
And the city administrator, that's from
Was Becca, because she was our last city administrator. Yep.
prior job.
So obviously, the city administrator had the most messages in this thread, right? Roughly, when you do a sort, it appears to be somewhere around 795 in the quorum thread that she initiates. Out of elected officials, Mr. Shears had the #1 engagement at 376. Perry, who's no longer an alderman, was at 307. Tracy was at 260. Aaron Center was at 78. Brendan was at 189. Sorry for going out of order. And Scott Greenwald was at 3. Like I said, this went back to 2020. City employees aren't subject to quorum. This is a really great tool for city employees. It's not a great tool for elected officials. So that's what I have about that. Huh?
I know.
CDC is called.
Of course it is. You have a special ring like that for the CDC, really?
No. I'm out there after me.
Oh, I know.
Well, no,
Okay, we're watching way too much CSI.
yeah.
Well, because we know, now we know what's going on.
Actually, we're no better than they did.
Well, we never had a Chromebook.
Well, no, yeah.
I never had a Chromebook.
I never,
I never offered these, know what I think.
Here's what I can tell you guys for sure. I'm gonna step in there because the way Nikki made that sound is that we have broken quorum. I spend hours and hours and hours ensuring we don't break quorum. Because I talk to people individually. Ah, no, it's not. It is not easy. And it takes a lot of hours to run a city. I know, but I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that everybody knew that we don't.
It's just rocket science. I can read the very general things of 2017, for sure on the email discussion meetings, we first to the reform. And the definition of an official meeting, as we go, 1-25-1, reference to telephone, reference to telecom. The definition of telecom is like that point. Includes the exchange of information via the internet or any other electronic medium. The analysis of the definition leads to this conclusion. Email discussion that includes quorum, the body, that the official business of that body, be considered meeting for the consumption. Email a schedule similar activity was done in a different public meeting. That's the term generally for that change to the public body.
Spell out the pros and cons of why we should consider proceeding with open meeting violations, but that was done by the prior council. When you just put it out there last night. And anyone else?
Well, I think that the comment that was made about the holding the oath of office as a solemn pledge when we take elected office is violated when official business of a public body is done violently outside of the participation in the public setting. You know, I'm an appointed official, I'm not an elected official, I've never been an elected official. I've taken the vote many times, as lawyers. And the lawyers have ethical obligations to support conduct of other lawyers that violate the ethics. I have an affirmative obligation. I guess the question for elected public officials is knowing what you know. Are you upholding the vote? What does that mean to you?
That's one problem. I just
By nature,
I know it put you on the spot. Well,
many of us in South Dakota don't like to rat out our neighbors. So do that. This is a public business. So elected officials create a culture, whether they want to or not, by their conduct and behavior, they create a culture. And it's up to the citizens ultimately to develop us. The citizens of this town as well as I guess I would turn that to you. I don't think that. I don't have a The violation
That
is,
is trivial compared to what.
That's correct. Yeah, right.
So there's 2,000,
Well, I mean, you go wild on it, I mean, I suppose potentially,
We have no idea.
yeah, I mean, just.
We're speculating.
And the thing turns out that, you know, prosecutors have absolute discretion whether they.
Does the council see this prior to the meeting? So this is.
This is the first time hearing any, well, why would they want them to be discussed in this private? You know, I'll just turn that back in. I mean, how do you, I mean, at some point you gotta let the sun in.
I just, it's something that.
Oh, this is, complex isn't even the word. Complex does not even touch what this city has been through.
Those meetings are really simple, yes. And there's nothing complex about it.
No.
Run, I mean, I don't want council members to respond to my emails, even though there's an attorney-client privilege. Send stuff, for them to think about, so that then it's an agenda item to be discussed publicly.
And just so you know,
And I don't mean to.
No, but that can-
I mean,
but even when Lacey has to send stuff to the government officials, she's got to do it one at a time. Even a one-to-many, I learned in elected official training when I just went to peer, that one-to-many could be misconstrued because any one of us could hit reply to all. So it has to be a one-to-one. She can do two at a time because that's not quorum, but she's got to send it. And I have to go one at a time because, you know, if I have two, then it's a violation. We can't do that. But every council does. Well, I tell you what, if the council wants to make public things that are not, you know, private in nature, like I mean, I don't know. It's a lot. It's like thousands of messages, you know, and, but that's fine. Well, there's an ongoing thread of how to handle Grant Park Capital. One of the, here, let me give you an example of something that I know is safe to show. Let me just give you an example. This moves really slow. I'll share my screen.
That was one that I thought of, the other one that I thought of, we had a month or so, and now we're gonna go back out.
Well, no one's in the news.
Well, Mr. Pepper, because people would usually get the Pepper.
Well,
No, let me-
there's that one.
Well, but the difficulty is that there are people, and when there are people who let others lead and do stuff, you know, and ability. What we want, I think you could have, you know, city government representative, you know, 3,000, whatever it is, 2,138 words. You can certainly bring this up as campaign issues. We may decide to run for council yourself. A lot of times, things like, I think our mayor would testify, all the witness that things that bothered her about how things were being done, motivated to put herself out there.
I think I've been pretty pretty vocal about that.
That's another pro. The caution, you know, that, you know, you take your seriously, you don't violate it, you expect something that sounds like worse than just the old meeting, you know,
Yeah, public service isn't easy and you gotta want it, and it is thankless. It is absolutely thankless,
or that, and by you, I mean,
the collective.
that lady, but
Yeah. Okay, let me show you this. This will help give you an example. So like I said, the first message was on December 30th, right? And so, one question before tonight is the public knowledge of the sale of the city's, I'm at the wrong one, sorry. That was the last message. Okay, here's the packet for tonight's meeting. Okay, I understand the efficiency of it. This should have been done differently. Becca, I've been checking on, see what the process is for annexation. Finance officer is going through and talking about all of the stuff about annexation and how to file it and how to do it. What they're looking at is the state's petitions, and then they talk to Bell Rapids and somebody else, and then there's a proposed calendar here that talks about how they would like it done. And then, so Mike can schedule his engineers, he's gonna vote up or down on this so that we can get going, okay? And they check with Bell Rapids and Harrisburg, okay? Finance officer, by all rights, can do this, but it really shouldn't be done in one to many. That's been a vague thing for a lot of people. A lot of people genuinely, honestly didn't know that, right? They thought, well, if you just do one to many and say, don't respond, then that's okay. We learned just this summer in here that you can't do that. And we're like, whoa, we just learned that, can't do that anymore. So Lacey's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, no, can't do that anymore. So, honest error there. Travis is saying the schedule looks good. And we'll have Mike and the engineers there. I think that's, to the advantage. Did we ever receive a preliminary plat for the Stockwell edition? Well, there's your preliminary plat. Now, I saw that, I got all kinds of excited because one of our biggest hiccups is we always wondered what the first plan was, right? We were wondering where it was because it's not in City Hall.
That's what infrastructure improvements were described, if any, on the preliminary plan.
The very, very, very first one. We wanted to see the very first one to see if there had been any changes, because we never really believed we saw the first one.
That's what the developer's obligations are. That's
Okay,
things like retention on water levels, no.
so you look at this, I'm all excited, you click on it, it says you don't have access, and I'm like, what do you mean you don't have access? So then I call the IT people, our IT people now, Direct Technologies, fantastic people. And it turns out on the back side of this is what is called SharePoint. It's a file share place that you can put things, okay? And you go back there and all of them are empty. Cleaned out, zero. You can see they were all started in 2020, but they're all 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So what we can see is right now, not even in the fourth message, city critical information we needed that potentially could have helped us equip us. In our, how many months? Still, we don't have a settlement agreement fully realized. We still don't have this, okay? So that was my first point of concern. I think that kind of makes the point. I'm just trying to make sure I don't do anything. But we have that. Oh, well, okay, hold on. I gotta take this off screen because I don't want to make a mistake. And there's HR stuff and other stuff, and I just don't want to. Sorry, guys. Trying to do things right. Aren't you guys glad you came to this meeting? Yeah, you guys are just gonna table the rest of the meeting and come back another night after this, huh? Oh, let's do another one tomorrow. Why not? Actually, we do have one on Monday.
On Monday.
Why don't you start checking the agenda to see what we can table and do next week, and then we'll just do what we have to do tonight, okay? Because I'm serious, 'cause this is. It's never dull in Baltic rice. Okay, so obviously, because we're in the business of Swiss cheese and trying to put things together, I had remarkable interest in anything that was discussed with Grant Park, trying to piece together information that we don't have. So we have, Travis asking, did we ever receive a preliminary plat? We have, here's the preliminary plat, but we can't see it, we don't know it, and I'm sure you didn't print it out because it was ridiculous document. Thanks. Tracy talks about Bulldog Days, but then she's also talking about Banner. You know, making sure that we do the first phase. She talks about, doing the sidewalks and the commercial property and, trying to figure out how to pay for things, basically. No, we're not there yet. Am I out of order? No, I'm still ready. So regarding approving annexation, I feel like I'm out of order. Am I out of? Okay, do we need to do annexation and preliminary plat? Should we have it approved tonight without a lawyer on payroll? At this point in time, they were in between attorneys tonight.
I mean,
Thank you, Bryce. Okay, so basically what's happening is the council is discussing how to handle the meeting, the upcoming meeting, you put the lights on. The upcoming meeting where they have to decide about annexing. So, you know, we should withhold it, there should be a special meeting, help make sure I understand correctly. We can all vote to deny in preliminary. We have to annex the land first before we can plat. We should table before we have a lawyer. Annexing the plants would be two separate votes. We can discuss with the attorneys and then you can direct me who to have a contract with. Yes, annexation must happen before plat approval. So you can see these are conversations that normally would happen here. It's just happening there. I can't show that one. And Travis, you asked another big question about regarding impact fees. So many lots, because that was a question that a lot of citizens were asking about impact fees and what to do about impact fees. Impact fees would have been a way to offset some of the infrastructure expenses that we were having. You would also find that, there was no water study done. They still needed to do one before they annexed this. And they talked a lot about how they really needed the water tower. This isn't new. Impact fees are tied to the purchase of the lot. Until the final plat is approved, not sure how this is all gonna work out. We're gonna talk with Pat Banner, see what he thinks. And Travis is saying sounds good, normal, and impact fee is set at a percentage, makes sense. Also note it's a separate fee from water hookups. Now the attorney, Tom, has confirmed that the council does not approve the final preliminary plat, which is an oxymoron, just so we're all aware. As P and Z has already done so, the council only approves the final plat. This is in line with our subdivision regulations and ordinances. This is where I kind of came to a dead stop. Because the reason why we got into such a scuffle with the developer is because the subdivision regulations and ordinances weren't followed. If you look at that, the first step is get a bond. So here the city administrator is educating all of the council and the inspector about the subdivision regulations and ordinances. And the thing that's really interesting about this is when we went back to Tracy's first meeting and she became interim mayor, I'm sure you remember that she had to appoint a P and Z committee because a citizen had pointed out that there wasn't the regular appointments being done for P and Z. It was just kind of a run-on, kind of like the way it was where everybody was being appointed and there was no elections. So Tracy had to appoint a P and Z committee. They appointed Chris Dreyer as the president of the P and Z committee. And Chris Dreyer then ensued, letting everybody know, because I had suggested that maybe, because this is in the meeting, it's all on camera. It's all on camera, you can go back and refer to this. I'm going to share this with you to the best of my recollection. But I had said, well, why don't you ask to see who would be interested in being in the P and Z committee before you just turn around and appoint them? So Tracy then looked at the crowd and said, who would be interested in being on P and Z committee? And I kid you not, I think 12 people raised their hands, including the people that were on P and Z and other people in the group that wanted to be on P and Z. So that was I thought that was kind of amazing that we had that level of interest in being on P and Z. Then Chris Dreyer had this binder, and it was like, you remember it, big binder. And he's like, you guys need to understand how important it is to know what you're doing on the P and Z committee. There's so many rules and regulations and ordinances you have to follow, and it's a lot of responsibility, and you gotta know the stuff, and you gotta know the rules, and on and on and on and on. And he's tapping this big, thick book. So the question I always had was, where's that book? Because we've never seen it in this administration. We've never seen it. And, I do recall that Chris Dreyer, when he was done being P and Z president, he left it at the meeting, because remember, he resigned or something because he's gonna go get his PhD or something like that, and he was doing his final meeting, so he left it at the meeting. I believe that's correct. I have not gone back to look at it, but that's how I remember it. Because I followed up with Chris when all of this was happening, and we found out that there was supposed to be a bond and there wasn't a bond, and Chris said, I sent him the subdivision ordinance regulations, and he said that he had never seen them. And I'm like, seriously? How could you never see them when you're the president of P and Z? And he said, well, we always just trusted Becca. And, because they were the full-time employees, that they knew what they were doing. And so we just kind of let them do that, and then we did what they said. Now, that's not quote unquote, obviously, it's just basically the opinion that they've given me. And I go, okay. And, then obviously Travis was on P and Z, and so I'd asked him, have you ever seen the subdivision ordinance regulations? And Travis was like, no, I've never seen it. And he showed me his binder, and it wasn't in there. It wasn't in there. But I'm very hard pressed to believe that the subdivision ordinance regulations that were written in 2000, and Mike Lundin was mayor, that they were written and they made the motion, and the three gentlemen that were on the P and Z committee with you, who also voted to approve this, didn't have copies of something that they approved, and the only person that was privy to this knowledge was the city administrator and the city attorney, who we also know was paid to review this document. And still didn't advise anybody to get a bond. He sent an email and said, hey, maybe we ought to work something out, maybe get a letter line of credit. And then we have a letter from a representative of the developer saying, yeah, go ahead and get that to him, and then it's ether. We have no idea what happened after that. But I can tell you definitively, this town would have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars had that been followed and we had a bond. It comes down to that single issue. It's not complex. Very, very simple. No bond, big problem. Big problem. So I understand that people's hearts might have been in the right place and they were trying to do the right things for the right reasons. I understand that. But at this moment in time, none of these people were elected. They were all appointed. That's, you get to have, I'm here to answer questions. I'm here all night. I'm here to answer questions. Whatever you want to do is fine with me. Are you calling for an executive session? Okay. Do you want me here? You, 7:50 for executive, you want me with you? Do you want to talk? Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. All those in favor of going into executive session? Say aye. Any opposed? Okay. I'm going to stop.
Yeah, we had a question about it.
Let's just say this, if you're not here, then we can't discuss it and we'll have to table it. How's that for an answer for you? Okay. For those of you that are online, what I'm gonna do is what I normally do is I put you on mute. And I have to stop the recording and then we'll be back on when we're back.